Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. I pray that you are well, inshallah. First and foremost, I'd like to welcome you to what is our third night in this series of our history nights, inshallah. And we're hoping, bi'idhnillah, that those of you that have had a chance to watch the previous two nights shows, that you get a chance to do so after today. And we're also hoping, bi'idhnillah, that if you do watch today's show, that you are aware that we are carrying on this series of history nights from now throughout the first 10 days of Dhul Hijjah. You will not be unfamiliar with our guest speaker, Dr. Wajid Akhtar. Wajid, how are you doing today? You well, inshallah?
Alhamdulillah. How are you?
Alhamdulillah, I'm very well and glad to be here, bi'idhnillah. You might be unfamiliar with myself because, as you know, Brother Farid isn't here today, but I'm hoping that I can fill in for him, bi'idhnillah. As a reminder to each and every single one of you, this show is live here on YouTube. If you're watching it from Facebook, please make sure that you subscribe to the Unpaid YouTube channel. It just means that you can, inshallah, be aware of the next shows that come out. If you turn notifications on, even better, it means that you have an opportunity to get a notification next time we go live, inshallah. And the same on Facebook. If you take lessons from the session today, please just drop a share, drop a like. It does help us here on the channel, and it also means that many people can benefit from us today, bi'idhnillah. So today's story, the topic is, of course, Hajj stories from the past, which is what the running theme is throughout our show here. And the title is Fudhayl bin Iyadh, the unpaid debt. So without further ado, I'm going to pass over to Brother Dr. Wajid Akhtar, inshallah, who's going to talk us through this insightful story of Fudhayl bin Iyadh.
Jazakallah khairan. Thank you so much, Brother Atiq. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, wa salatu wa salamu ashraf al-anbiya al-mursalin, nabiyana Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallim wa ilayhi tasliman jami'an kathira. When we think about Islamic history, when we think about the stories, we almost always think about the amazing people, the great leaders, the brave warriors, the amazing scholars. But what we don't normally talk about are the people who weren't so great, the people on the side of the screen, people who were maybe even evil, people who were thieves, murderers, and robbers. And today we're going to talk about one of them. We're going to talk about Fudhayl bin Iyadh, who was a highway robber. He was someone who operated in the Iraq, Khorasan type area, and maybe even beyond. We don't know whether he robbed Hajj caravans, but there were many of his like who did. And we know that he wasn't just an ordinary thief. He was the robber's robber. He was well known to have been someone who would, hold up entire caravans and loot people of all their wealth. Now, this person was going about his normal life like any other robber would, stealing and, forming a gang and building his reputation in the criminal underworld and so on. But one day, what happened was that he was on a solo mission. He wasn't with his whole crew. He was by himself. And, freelancing as he did, he decided he needed some quick money. He saw a house and he decided, I'm just going to go and rob the people in this house. I'm going to just take whatever they've got. So he went and he started climbing the wall. And when he was climbing the wall, when he was just about to get inside the house, he heard the person who was inside reciting these ayah from the Quran. And this is the ayat that he was reciting, the person who was inside. He recited, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, Alam ya'ni lilladhina amanu an takhsha qulubuhum li dhikrillah, wa ma nazala min al-haqqi wa la yakunu kalladhina utul kitaba min qabli fatala alayhim al-amadu faqasat qulubuhum wa kaseerun minhum fasiqun. Fudhayl bin Iyadh heard these ayah and it made him stop. Because what does it mean? What these ayat mean? The translation is really hard-hitting. The words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are, has the time not come? Has the time not come for those who have believed, that their hearts should become humbly submissive at the remembrance of Allah and what has come down of the truth. And let them not be like those who were given the scripture before, and a long period passed over them, so their hearts hardened, and many of them are defiantly disobedient. Has the time not come? And when Fudhayl heard these words, he felt like as if he'd heard them for the first time. He changed his plan about going and robbing this person and taking everything from this person's house. He turned around and he climbed down off the wall. Now, when he climbed down off the wall, when he got to the bottom, he saw a young mother with her baby, with her child. And the child was making noise, was crying. So the mother, in an attempt to get the child to be quiet, shh, be quiet. She said, don't you know? This is the area that Fudhayl bin Iyadh works in. If he hears you, what will he do? So he was shocked. This was a 1-2 knockout blow for him. First, he heard these ayat from Quran, which it was almost like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was speaking to him. Has the time not yet come? For those who believe, has the time not yet come? And then when he came down, he heard the words of an ordinary person from the Muslim public, but she was using him to scare her child. What kind of human being was he? What kind of person is this that parents use his name not to aspire, like they say, don't you want to be like this person when you grow up? Or look at him, look at how amazing he is. Instead to say, oh my God, be quiet. If he hears you, what will he do? He'll kill us all. So he realized that his life was not the living life the right way, and it was time to give up. So he changed, and from that day on, he gave up. This transformation is not something unique. This transformation happened a lot in the early history of Islam. This transformation from one to another, almost like a 180-degree turnaround. And it happened at all levels of society. It didn't even happen just to thieves and robbers and murderers. It happened to anyone and everyone, right to the very top. What was the top level of society? What was the number one level in society? Was the Khalifa. And the Khalifa at that time was a playboy. He was rich. He was born into wealth. He was able to do whatever he wanted. He didn't have a want for a single thing. I mean, they say that people are born with a silver spoon in his mouth. This person was born with a gold spoon in his mouth, and all around him, he had anything that he desired. And he couldn't even live in the palaces that he had, the number of palaces he had. When the ambassadors would come and see his court, they would just say that there's this, I can't imagine anything like this on planet Earth. This must be what heaven is like. So this Khalifa, who lived a life of being a playboy, doing whatever he wanted, he went on Hajj. And when he went on the Hajj, he was there in Mecca, and in the middle of the night, he wanted to go out. In the old days, and to be honest, even nowadays, if you want to know what's going on the ground, you cannot rely on your associates. You have to get out of your bubble. If you keep on relying on your own social media, you'll always think that everyone is against Brexit, or you'll always think that no one likes this person for prime minister. You always think that everyone thinks like you because you're in a bubble. You need to escape the bubble. So this Khalifa, he wanted to escape his bubble. He wanted to see what are the real people like and what are they going through. He wanted to maybe change. He was on Hajj. So he told his vizier, and he called his vizier. In the middle of the night, he woke up and he called his vizier. He said, I feel unsettled. I want to go and visit some scholars. I need some advice. Please take me to a scholar. So his vizier took him in the middle of the night. They knocked on the door. A scholar opened the door and they went inside. Who is it? It's the Khalifa. The scholar is amazed. Come in, come in. The Khalifa goes, give me advice. So the scholar would give him some advice. Read some hadith, read some ayat, read some tafsir, and the Khalifa would listen. and he just wouldn't be satisfied. But he would be polite, and he would say, okay, I'm going now. So he would walk out, and when he's leaving, he would turn to the scholar and say, do you have any debts? And the scholar would say, yes, I have debts. Because to be honest, everyone in the old days, they lived on debts. Where would you get the money from? You have to survive, you have to eat food, you have to drink, sometimes you have to borrow money. So, debt was a thing that a lot of people had. And today, everyone has credit cards and stuff, so everyone has debts nowadays. Most people have debts too. So he said, yes, I have some debts. So the Khalifa turned to the Wazir and said, get his debts paid. Pay all his debts. And then he left. And then the Khalifa said, I'm not satisfied. Can you take me to another scholar? So the Vizier took him to another scholar. The same thing happened again. Who is it? It's the Khalifa. Come inside. The Khalifa says the same thing. I want some advice. Teach me something. The scholar teaches him something, reads some ayat, some hadith. And the Khalifa on the way out says, do you have any debts? And the scholar says, yes. And the Khalifa turns to the Vizier and says, make sure that his debts are taken care of. And he goes back to his room again. A few minutes later, the Khalifa is up again. He goes to the Vizier. I'm still not satisfied. This happens multiple times through the night. Until the Vizier, he says, there's no one left, Ya Khalifa. I've taken you to everyone. He goes, there must be someone that you can take me to. He said, there's one, but you don't want to go to this guy. And the Khalifa said, why not? He goes, well, this scholar, he's really antisocial. I mean, he doesn't like people. He doesn't like people looking at him. He doesn't like people talking to him. He doesn't like dealing with people. In fact, people came to visit him, and he went on his roof of his house and he told, I pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give you guys a job so you can go away from here. That's the kind of scholar he is. He's a scholar, but he's not your people person. The Khalifa was like, look, there's no one else left, take me to him. So they went and they knocked on the door. Now it's the middle of the night, people are asleep. The voice comes from inside, who is it? The Vizier said, 2 guests I have with me, the Khalifa of the Muslimin. The voice from inside goes, why did he come here? I have nothing that he wants, and he has nothing that I want. Pretty much an antisocial response, right? And the Vizier said, what are you talking about? The Khalifa, let him in. He wants to come in. He goes, no, I don't want to let him in. I don't need anything from him. And I've got nothing that he could possibly want. This continued for a little while until the Vizier said, Ya Sheikh, even if it was 2 random strangers on the door, it is the height of lack of adab that you don't let them in. They're knocking on the door. They want to come in. As a guest, just let them in. Who cares who they are? So the door opened. It was dark, no candle, which was a sign of poverty. So the Khalifa and his Vizier went in, and they couldn't see anyone. The Khalifa put forward his hand to shake the hand of the Sheikh, and the Sheikh shook his hand. And when the Sheikh shook his hand, the Sheikh said, such soft hands, a pity that they may burn in the fire. When the Khalifa heard this, he fainted. He just dropped. When he woke up, he was sweating, and he turned to the Sheikh and said, why did you say that? And the Khalifa said, why not? You do have soft hands, and I see there is only one place they will go. They will burn in the fire of hell. The Khalifa said, teach me, Sheikh, tell me something. So the Sheikh told him about justice. He said, be just, because if you're not just, it doesn't matter everything else that you do. It doesn't matter the Hajj that you go on. It doesn't matter the mosques that you build. It doesn't matter the money that you give away. If you do not rule with justice, then nothing matters for you. Your abode is where I was telling you. That's up to Allah. But do you know what your destination is? You can't play games with this. So the Khalifa listened intently. And he said, how will I know that I'm ruling with justice? How will I know that I'm doing it? The Sheikh said, it's very simple. Look around you. Have you surrounded yourself with people who are just? Have you surrounded yourself with people who uphold the truth? If you have, then the chances are good that you are ruling with justice. But if you surround yourself with people who are looking out for number one, people who are looking out for themselves, for money, for glory, who are ruling with injustice, then the chances are that you are ruling with injustice too. The Khalifa thanked him. And as he was leaving, he turned around and he said, Ya Sheikh, are there any debts that you have? And the Sheikh said, yes, I do. I have a lot of debts. So the Khalifa turned to his vizier and said, tell him to please make sure that you take care of his debts. The Sheikh laughed and he said, your treasury will not be able to handle my debts that I have. You won't be able to deal with it. The Khalifa looked at him and said, do you know who I am? Do you know how much money I have? I can handle any debt. The Sheikh said, no, you can't. Your whole treasury will disappear. My debt will still stand. So the Khalifa turned around and he said, what kind of debt have you got yourself into, Ya Sheikh, that the treasury of the richest man in the world can't fulfill? And the Sheikh turned around and said, my debt is with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And no one can fulfill that debt except him. No money can fulfill it except him. The Khalifa learned his second lesson for the night. He thanked the Sheikh and he left. And as he and his vizier were walking out and going back home, he turned to his vizier and he said, what was the name of that Sheikh? And the vizier said, that Sheikh was Sheikh Fudhayl bin Iyadh. The same Sheikh who, at the beginning of our story, was a highway robber. Subhanallah. Brothers and sisters, what is the lesson that we can take away? There's so many beautiful lessons you can take away from this story. But the lesson I want you to take away and to reflect on is, today we live in a world of cancellation culture, right? Cancel culture. If someone makes a mistake, if someone says something wrong, or even in the wrong way, or someone does something wrong, genuinely wrong, or even not genuinely wrong previously, then they're cancelled. It's all over. The social media lynch mob is ready. They will destroy their reputation and they leave no way out for this person. Today, there is very little room for forgiveness. There's very little room for letting people change. There's very little room for mercy. And subhanAllah, this is not the way of Islam. This is not the way of our pious predecessors. If that was the case, then someone like Fudhayl bin Iyadh would not be able to turn around his life and go from highway robber to a venerated sheikh that we talk about to this day. And this is something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is teaching us through the Hajj. Think about it. When you go on the Hajj, the reward for an accepted Hajj, I have to say this, it's important. The accepted Hajj, only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows if it's accepted or not. The reward for an accepted Hajj, not just for booking the ticket and paying the money and going and coming back. We don't know if that's accepted. But the reward for an accepted Hajj is as if you are sinless like a newborn baby. Because there are some debts, there are some things that no one can repay. Maybe you have wronged someone and you are not able to rectify that. Maybe there are mistakes that you haven't done, but mistakes that have been done over generations. Tragedies that have been fulfilled generation after generation. And if you look for it from a person, you cannot find retribution. You will not find justice from a single human being. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who can repay any debt. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who can forgive anyone of anything He chooses. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who is full of infinite mercy. And this is a lesson from the Hajj, inshallah, that we can take away. That as Muslims, always leave a way out for our fellow human beings, for them to change, for them to turn back, and they will do the same for you. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does that for us, so it's only befitting that we do that for our fellow human beings, our brothers and sisters, whether they're Muslim or they're not. Always leave some room for forgiveness. And remember, inshallah, that Fudhayl bin Iyadh story is a story of how someone can change their life, and they can go from where the distance between a robber and a sheikh is just from changing your maybe one ayah, maybe one hadith, maybe one point of reflection. So no matter what mistake you've done in your life, no matter what evil that others have done to you, remember that that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the most just, and there is always a way to turn around, that He is the one who will pay back any debt, inshallah, for you. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us a chance to reflect on this and benefit from this. Jazakumullah khair.
Jazakumullah khair, Dr. Wajid, for that wonderful reminder of Fudhayl bin Iyadh, of the unpaid debt. And hopefully, inshallah, those of you that were watching took lessons from that, about the fact that really it's in our hands, the actions that we can take, and we shouldn't really judge anybody based on the action that they have done, because it is what you plan for yourselves for the future, inshallah. There are a lot of people that have commented on here. I just want to make a mention of those. We've got comments here from India, from Malaysia, also from Turkey as well. For those of you that are watching on Facebook and on YouTube, please make sure that you share this. This is a series that we have called History Nights here in collaboration with the Unpaid, and this is going to be going on throughout the first 10 days of Dhul Hijjah. Stories which are lessons from the past, which are around the theme that we have of Dhul Hijjah here at the moment, inshallah. That's all that is from us, inshallah. Do join us tomorrow at the same time of 7:30, and we'll be live tomorrow bi'idhnillah at the same time with Dr. Wajid, inshallah. So from all of us here at Unpaid, and again, if you want to make sure that you're in tune tomorrow, you can subscribe to the YouTube channel, or if you're watching on Facebook, just tune in tomorrow bi'idhnillah at the same time of 7:30. Is there any parting words you want to pass with us, Dr. Wajid, before we go?
Just to reiterate my thanks to both Islamic Relief and Unpaid. These two organizations, mashallah, do a fantastic job. And talking about unpaid debts, this is a debt that I have to you all, because you're helping me pass on a message. But we have a debt to yourselves. We have a debt to Unpaid, because this is a beautiful organization that helps spread good news about Muslims, and we need that. I get these WhatsApp forwards and I love it. It gives you that little bit of a good news that we have, which is usually not there. And Islamic Relief, we need Islamic Relief, because it allows, I see my brothers and sisters suffering anywhere in the world, and 2-3 clicks is all it takes, and I can help them. But behind those 2-3 clicks is an entire machine, is an organization that's making that happen. So if you like and subscribe to their pages, it helps them get the message out to more people. It helps them help more people. So please do that, inshallah.
Inshallah. Maybe if you want to tease the viewers that are watching, I know tomorrow's session is going to be on Harun al-Rashid, but if you can give us 15 seconds on why they should be tuning in for that.
Well, the 15 seconds is that the Khalifa that I was talking about today was Harun al-Rashid.
Oh, there we go. There's no better way for us to segue for tomorrow, inshallah. So please make sure that you tune in. Jazakumullah khair for that. And of course, as Dr. Wajid mentioned, bi'idhnillah, we have a duty and an obligation to do what we can for our brothers and sisters around the world, bi'idhnillah. And this is our part. We are playing our part to try and connect you with those, inshallah. So Jazakumullah khair from all of us here, and we hope to see you tomorrow. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.